afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your weekend edition. 'Tis Friday. Hope you had a great trading day out there today. You survived some of the whipsaw action, and at the end of the week, not a lot happening with the broad market indexes. So cheers, everyone. It's back to Whiskey Friday, so I hope you all had a good week. Rare Eagle Rare today. It was a celebratory week. I had a really good trading week, and just things are going good. Anyway, let's start with the trading week wrap-up, which is, a primitive graphic here. I asked AI to create an abstract picture, and that's what it gave me. So I'll start things off with the major news of the week, which is resolution of trade deals. Certainly we have the UK in the mix and made a big hoopla out of it yesterday that this was the big deal for the week, but not that big of a deal, but maybe a step in the right direction. I think from an optimistic perspective, that could lead the groundwork to the heavy hitters such as Europe and China. And that's really what caused these markets, in my opinion, to at least show some optimism this week, even though we didn't finish in the greatest territory today, just slightly down for the broader market indexes today. And it really revolves around this guy right here. So over the weekend, I do think we should keep an eye on his Twitter feed or his Truth Social feed, because who knows what he's going to tweet out there. I don't know if you guys caught it, but yesterday he said that you should load up on stocks. I forgot the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of, you should load up on stocks now. I feel sorry for anyone who's not long stocks. So when the president says something like that, it leads me to believe that you're going to see a nice move up in the market. So my bearishness has got to be put on hold here, just because you got the president saying to buy the stock market. My guess is he's going to do something to juice that thing. We'll find out this weekend. Big Abby's sweating down there at the 80s in San Diego. I've got, it was 87 at the office today. I went in there to say hi to Larry and others, and just a good time at our office. But yeah, warm, finally welcoming some sunshine here in Southern California, because it's been fairly ugly. Now, the other thing that people were talking about was Trump and Xi Jinping doing some deal this weekend. And Trump pushed this back onto Scott Bessent, right? He said maybe the tariffs need to come down a little bit, but that's up to Scott. And now they're talking about it going back from 145%, maybe dropping it down to 80. Certainly not removing the tariff discussion, but alleviating some of that pressure and maybe the hostility going back and forth. So I'm going to start things off with just a quick look at our broad markets for the week. And I know they're still changing right now because we're not quite done on some of them, but I'm going to start with a weekly chart here. So from a weekly perspective, there's a couple of standouts, and they're not indexes. The indexes actually this week were not anything special. It's about alternative investments, really oil, Bitcoin, gold, 10-year bond, dollar index, all having a great week, whereas the rest of the markets did not. So what's noteworthy here? Well, we've talked about the strength of the weakness of the dollar going forward, and now it feels like we're gaining a little bit of strength. We had talked about this lower demand zone that was between 97.70 and 98.31, which goes all the way back to the very tail end of this low end of this consolidation back from March of 2022. So that was kind of the targeted demand zone. We bounced off of that one and then thought we'd be bouncing in between these two zones for quite some time. That typically happens. Well, we broke above it this week, and we closed above the high end of that zone, which is 100.27. From that perspective, it does lead me to believe that you're going to see this go higher. And again, I know that's a conflicting talk track to what we've been saying, because Scott Bessent and President Trump both want this dollar to get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. Now, that doesn't help other countries out so much with their currency, so they're going to cut and battle, trying to drop the value of their currency, just like the British pound did yesterday. They had a rate cut of 25 basis points. And they are trying to weaken their currency. You can see 3 shooting stars in a row on that British pound, 3 weekly shooting stars here on that British pound. No real follow through, but they would love for their pound to get a little bit weaker here and maybe help with some exports. So the currency war is definitely on, but that was your weakest performer on the day, down 0.22%. But all in all, it's been a great 3 weeks for the dollar index. Not aggressive moves up. Yeah, I agree, Margaret. She said DXY looks bullish. It looks bullish if your time frame is short term, right? If you look at this bigger picture, let's zoom out here a little bit on the weekly. There's your weekly picture of it. The big piece for me was that we broke down below that 100 mark, right, and closed below it. That really is a symbol of the whole number psychology. I anticipated it bouncing there, and it did not. Now we're back above 100, which is a great sign. The question I would have is, where do you think it's going to rally to if this is in fact bullish, right? Because you have this downtrend that started back in January of this year, lower lows, lower highs, and fairly aggressive. Now all of a sudden we have a three-week rally in that dollar index. Well, where does it go to? Well, I would break up that chart and show you the daily here. For me, it's most likely going to rally back up to a point where it looks like it's going to rally back up to a point where there was an origin of a bigger move, and that goes back to this 103 mark on the dollar index. So I'll put a line right there at that 103. The peak of that candle from April 10th is 102.991. Now, that doesn't mean that this is going to crash, doesn't mean it's the end, but it does mean that there was a big move down from that point, and certainly there's probably some unfilled orders there. There's a higher probability that we'll probably see some downside movement once it gets back up there. But again, that's a long ways away. And remember, the stronger that gets, the more that hurts the U.S. equity markets. It's not necessarily a good thing for us to have such a strong dollar going in there. So just wanted to throw that one out there as kind of stuff to pay attention to and keep your eye on as we go forward here. Dollar does look strong. I think in the daily chart here, you've got higher highs and higher lows, at least since April 21st, but bigger picture is definitely down. And maybe you draw a line across the peaks here and use that, or you could use something like a moving average, which I will add a simple moving average on here for you. You know, here's another tool that people will use, and I know that some of my trader friends I've met over the years will, for some reason, this computer is glitchy and I can't adjust the settings. So I can't go in here and change this time frame on this moving average for you. Don't know why. I have to restart my computer or something. But what this guy would do is he would take this moving average, which I believe right now it looks like a 20-period moving average, and he'll dial it down. He'll adjust it so that it goes to the most peaks. If that's the case, then we're coming fairly close to that moving average as we speak. If you were to drop this down to maybe like a 15 or a 18, somewhere in there. Anyway, yes, strong for swing traders, for position traders. Dollar's still looking weak. All right, Saba says, Merlin, can you comment when Dixie and stocks are correlated versus not correlated? Well, historically, they should be inversely correlated, right? So over the course of time, there's a higher probability that if a dollar is strong, the equity markets are weak. That's the normal probability. I think what you're asking, Saba, is what happens when it disconnects, right? What happens when you have the dollar strong and the equity market strong? So for example, let me take this moving average off of here and let's slap on, since we're looking dollar, let's go add on SPY. Right, so here's the S&P 500 on top of that dollar index. And I'm certainly not going to say they're lockstep together, but as the dollar was falling, that was hurting the equity markets. And now as the dollar is rallying, it's rallying the equity markets. So over time, I do think you'll see disconnects. I just disregard those because I've tortured myself, honestly, tortured myself, trying to say, well, if it does this, then it has to do this. And then you put too much of an emphasis that it has to do something. It doesn't have to do anything. Remember, markets are going to do whatever they want to do. So one resource that's good for historical relationships is MRCI. I think I've shared this with you guys before. Let me drop it into chat here. Boom, and here you go. Hopefully you guys get this link. I know some of you already have it and have bookmarked this one. And let's go out to DX. So right here you can see this is the dollar index. And you'll notice that right now it's completely inverse from the British pound, completely inverse from Japanese yen, as it should be. It should be the inverse of those ones. Now, what about the indexes? Right now, there's actually more of a correlation, and that's not just now. This is over the last 30 days. Actually, let me make sure that's 30 days. Actually, this says previous 180 trading days. So let's see what it's looking at on the last 30 trading days. Make sure we got that set up. So for the last 30 days, you're seeing it not totally correlated to any of those indexes. It's actually a little bit closer to the Dow than anything at 39% correlation, but a 1 according to the NASDAQ, or correlated to the NASDAQ. So it's 100 would mean it's exactly the same as the NASDAQ. So it's about in the middle there. Normally, these are going to be negative numbers. And it's just kind of strange because it has been, I would argue, oddly correlated for a while now. I mean, even if you go back 6 months. So here's 60 days. And you see strong correlations between the dollar and the broader equity markets. The 180 days as well. So I'll be honest, Saba, I don't put too much emphasis on it. I just keep an eye on it. And for the most part, if I do see that dollar index moving to the upside, then I'm going to have a slightly bearish opinion on the markets. Of course, I'm really looking at the market chart first, and then using that dollar index as maybe a secondary support tool to help me get that higher probability set up on there. But yeah, it has definitely been out of whack for a while. Is Bitcoin the king for the week? Yes. Percentage-wise? Oh, yeah. I'll real quickly run here. Bitcoin, definitely the king for the week. And though many of you have been eagerly awaiting that king to put the crown back on, certainly I have. Let's just do weekly numbers here. I'll run through them and do them manually for you guys right now. Dollar index for the week, only a 0.39% gain, but it was up. Russell, as you can see here, small little red candle. We're going to call it unchanged for the week. S&P, same thing. You've got what could technically be just called a hanging man pattern here after a strong rally. Again, Steve Nissen says that's a reversal pattern. I believe that's actually a bullish formation. But for the week, S&P is down 0.54%. I mean, it felt like a really good week. Unfortunately, Monday was such a big down day that these are weeks. I'm sorry. These are weeklies. Monday wasn't a big down day. Monday was a decent day. This is that April 2nd week, right? When we had that big sell-off because of the tariff being put in place. We've now recovered all that. So this week, rather boring. Not a lot of range. It's the smallest range we've had in 6 weeks. And the real body is very small, meaning no real decision, no real direction going there. So even though we had nice moves this week, ultimately a snooze fest. NASDAQ, same picture. You get a hanging man pattern here on the NASDAQ weekly time frame, which, according to Steve Nissen, implies we're going to be going lower from here. I feel like it's going higher, but he wrote the books. I did not. Your 10-year yield, this surged up pretty good. 10-year yield was up 1.72% for the week. Doesn't a weak dollar lead to inflation? Correct. Because it typically, Andres, what happens is one of the catalysts for a weaker dollar is printing of money. Now, the Fed isn't exactly printing more money, but they're not retiring the money they had either. So if people are selling bonds, which we've heard some talk track about that today or yesterday with Bill Itis, not as heavy as anticipated with China, but as people are selling some of those bonds to maybe diversify their holdings, that money is now back in U.S. dollars, so they're selling those bonds for U.S. dollars, and now that creates more supply and pushes prices down because you have more supply of dollars. Hey, Chris, good to see you. 82 in Fairfax, California. I love Fairfax, California. Small little sleepy town. Chris, did you know that you knew that Robin Williams was my babysitter, but do you know he lived in Fairfax? That's where I grew up, was in Fairfax. Robin Williams lived in Fairfax, and that's how my mom was best friends with Robin Williams' girlfriend. Weird facts. All right, moving on up the list. This was one of the bigger winners for the week, and that was gold. Last week was a pretty ugly one. Well, this week, you ended up with a 3.1% move up in gold. Now, at its peak, it was up 6.32%. So really gold looking great. And, Margaret, I'll get to your comment. You sent a post to me asking for my comments on it, and I'll definitely look at that. It's talking about gold and, and why it's going much, much, much higher. And let's go to crude oil, which also had a great week. Now, the problem with gold was we started off on a weaker note before finishing very strong. Gold was up 4.68%, crude oil up 4.68% for the week. At one point, though, crude oil was down 5%. So this is the most volatile one, I would argue. And then here's the king. The king of kings. Loved it. I was very happy about this one this week. We had a 6.29% move up in Bitcoin for the week. Keep in mind that since the lows we achieved in April 2nd, this is really when the tariff stuff was hitting, Bitcoin's up 38%. Great. Yeah, Big Eb says Ethereum's been very impressive. Yeah, it really has, and I have been speaking negative of Ethereum. And the main reason I've been speaking negative of Ethereum is they're making upgrades to their system, but the upgrades they're making don't focus on scalability. They focus on usability. Now, it was up another 5.6% today. You want to talk about weekly gains? Ethereum, 28.57% for the week. Now, as the second largest holding in my portfolio, this makes me very happy. That was a good one. Very happy about that. But yeah, Bitcoin really has the longer trajectory, at least for movement. I mean, Ethereum, yes, had a great week, but look what Bitcoin's been doing over the past month and a half. It's been phenomenal. We hit those lows down around 75,000 and have not stopped since. So my assumption is that momentum's bringing more and more attention to Bitcoin. We're going to see this thing break above 108. I said it before the month began that I think in the month of May we'll be back to all-time highs. And you guys can stop asking me if I think it's going to get to my target of 250,000 because the answer is a resounding Yes, I do think we're going to get to 250 by November. It would be crazy if it happened. But, when we get to November and if it does break it, I'm just going to sit here and look really smug. I'm going to gloat inside as opposed to say, see, I told you. But who knows? I could very easily be wrong. And knowing the way the markets have spited me over the years, it'll get to like 249.99. Therefore, I can't say I achieved my target. I'll be happy with that too. Big Eb, yeah, you're about to dump your ETH. I've got mine staking right now, and it's just earning that yield. I actually did contemplate dumping Ethereum, but it's too big. It has the network effect. It's big time. Buy a Rolex. Margaret, you don't know me that well then. I would never buy a Rolex, ever. There's no circumstance where I would own a Rolex. It's bad enough I have an Apple Watch, but the only reason I have the Apple Watch is my girlfriend likes to do exercise competitions. Plus, I have access to all the information I need. I don't care to have a fancy watch that tells time. Years ago, Brandon Wendell, you guys may know Brandon, we used to go down and have parties at his place all the time, and one of his friends, I guess, comes from money. And this guy he shows up one night with this giant watch with the face that, it's so big, it's just obnoxious. Of course, he was a bigger guy, so it looked better on him. My tiny little wrists don't look good with watches. His watch was $150,000 and was like crusted in diamonds. I'm like, you're an idiot, dude. I'm sorry. I apologize if you guys are collectors of fine watches, but if you have a $150,000 watch, you're an idiot. Total moron. Because it tells the time. Maybe if you're lucky, it'll tell you how many meters you are underwater or give you a date on it, but who cares? I'm not about flashy things at all. It's funny, I went for a walk yesterday, and if you saw what I was wearing as I walked my dog around the neighborhood, you probably thought I was homeless. My shoes were absolutely dirty because of my yard dog park shoes. I had sweatpants on with dog hair all over them, no name shirt, and not for me. Not for me, Margaret. I had a Rolex, crappy watch for keeping time. It's for show. Exactly, Big Evan. I'm not for show. I have no interest in being flashy. I'd rather be the guy that just blends in. I kind of took this from one of the guys on the trading floor. So there were like 5 guys on my old trading floor. Why do you got to bring me into story time? Is it Friday? Here we go. There's like these 5 kind of key guys on the trading floor that were pretty good. And 2 of them, were extremely flashy. Like if they made money, they go buy themselves the coolest things. The one guy bought himself a brand new M3 convertible, just raced it around, and it was just a show off, just a total egomaniac. But there was one guy, his name was Jason. Actually, Jason and Mike were the 2. I guess Mike would probably be the best. I will leave his name out to protect the innocent. But Mike was a guy who, I swear on all that is holy, on every day that this guy traded, he'd make at least $1,000. It was nuts. And you just look over, he never got excited, he never got animated, he never talked about it, but I sat right next to him so I could look on the side of his screen and see what he was doing. I'm like, dude, you can make another $3,000? And he'd just be so calm and collected about it. He wore normal clothes, he wore fishing gear because he loved to fish, and he had a little beat-up old red Toyota truck. I mean, that truck was probably worth $3,000, $4,000. And he was the most consistent trader on that trading floor by a wide margin. And that's what I emulated to be, not just his style, which is consistent, but why let everybody know you have money? I'd rather take the money and continue to grow it and spend it on experiences. That to me is a much better use. Watches, Margaret, not my thing. Even if you guys sent me a Rolex as a gift, I probably would pawn it, take the money, and put it in an investment account. That's a much better use of capital any day. I did get your email on the German Shepherd vitiligo, but for some reason it didn't open on my downstairs computer. I've seen them before. There's actually a dog that comes to the park that's got vitiligo, and it's adorable. It's one of my favorite dogs coming to the dog park. It's super sweet. But yeah, I'll see if it works on this one because for some reason wouldn't load downstairs. All right, take that advertisement now. Let's see what else you got. Collecting gold is a better option. Yeah, gold's a better option because you have wealth appreciation or accumulation there. The only problem I have with gold is you don't want to show it. Like, part of me, I did like having a very classic car. You guys may have mentioned this before, but the car I had was a 1955 Porsche 550 Spider. Now, that is a replica, obviously, because the original is worth millions, and there's only like 100 of them left. But, oh yeah, that dog's cute. This is the graphic she was sending me. It's a little German Shepherd with vitiligo. That is really cute. Yeah, the one that's at the dog park has white-tipped ears and a few other spots on its face. Super cute. Love it. I would adopt that dog in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Vitiligo appreciates vitiligo. Do you use EKG on your watch? No, every now and again I'll do a little heart test. Sometimes I get anxiety and I'll do that, but no, not really. All right, anyway, I'm off topic. Let's get back to the matter at hand, which is our markets. So for the week, it's kind of interesting. Indexes, you shrug and go, what's going on? You look at the other markets like gold, like crude oil, really commodities doing very well. And I do expect that Bitcoin continues to move on up here. Yeah, mine was a black 550 Spider. You know, they're convertible. There was just a replica of the vehicle, but they're gorgeous. It's a really, really, really cool car. And for those of you who don't know, it's the car that James Dean died in. I wonder if the guy's even selling mine because I gave him a sweet deal on it. That actually, there it is. This might actually be my car. Let me see if I'll bring it up for you. This might actually be mine. Mine was black with those mag wheels, which made it very rare. Yeah, that's my car, but mine didn't have the air intake here. There were two different models. One was the Beck. Yeah, James Dean car. And, you know, for those of you who've ever ridden one of these things, you understand that the top of this door, if I stood next to this vehicle, the top of this door wouldn't touch the bottom of my groin. It was crazy. It's so low that cars can't see you. And that was my worry. I had people back up into my hood. I was almost getting run off the road. Yeah, his was the metal, the silver version of it. But yeah, great. I love the car because that gives me utility. At least with a car, I can drive it around. But, you know, I don't see spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on cars. That's just not my thing. But, you know, to each their own. Everyone has their things that they like. I guess I'm a collector, and I would argue that I'm a collector of capital. Right? Keep on growing accounts. You just never know when the uncertain times are going to hit. So I'd like to have a nice financial buffer should something happen. When we go to automated systems and our world is all robotic and people are going to be scrambling for jobs, I'll go, time to retire. I'm set. I'm good. I'll just keep trading. All right. So yeah, that was my money I did invest on was a Porsche 550 Spider, but you know, I could see maybe buying something like that again, but it's just too dangerous. Too dangerous. Andres, I'm a collector. It's weird. I collect hats. I collect shoes. I collect music. I collect, I definitely am a collector of things, but usually it's stuff that I can utilize that has some utility for me. Okay, what else was of importance this week? Obviously, we had data coming through, and most of that data looked pretty good. Given the news from Powell about interest rates, and of course, we know that he held rates at 4.5%, which I think is the right choice. I think Bill Addis and all my other colleagues agree that was probably the right thing to do. The question now is what happens going forward. So when we look at the economic announcements, let's go just show you some stuff that happened this week that I think is worthy of paying attention to. Let's go to Monday. Where's the British pound? The British pound should be right. I thought it was right there. Oh, I'm on next week's. No wonder I couldn't find it. I was like, wait a minute. I know that the Bank of England had their statement this week. And so here's ours. So you had those last 4 meetings in a row kept keeping the same. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, wow, this is a pretty big move up here. You know, this is the good opportunity for them to kind of move down, right, and start cutting rates, but not necessarily. If you look historically long term, we have had these big surges up in the Fed funds rate. I do think there's plenty of room to come down, but the good news for you and I is if the Trump stuff keeps pushing these markets lower, if we start to get, you know, more hostility, more aggression, and playing more hardball, which I think the worst is actually past us from that regard, it does prove that the Fed has a lot of options. I think you guys would agree that based off where we're at right now at 4.5%, if we started to see unemployment spike up or inflation, well, inflation staying the same is really important. But if GDP starts to decline significantly in the next 2 or 3 months, then they could very easily cut this and do not just 25 basis points, but they could cut 50 or 75 to shock the system if needed. So there's plenty of flexibility here for the Fed to, I hate to say it, manipulate the markets as they like to do. And I think that should give everyone here a little bit of optimism when we look at these equity markets as far as where they may go. You know, I've had this bullish take on it for quite some time, and I'm starting to I think Big Eb, you were bullish on it. I think I'm actually I think I'm feeling a little more optimistic and positive here. So I'm still bullish. I still have long trades. Well, only one trade is currently open. Everything else got closed out today. We'll run through those here in just a minute. Matter of fact, I'll do that right now. Let's hope that Trump golfs the whole weekend. Hey, you know what? Maybe he'll bring Xi Jinping over to golf, and maybe they'll work some deal there. As soon as that deal is done, guys, we're at all-time highs. As soon as China's out of the way, we'll be back at all-time highs. Join the club. Yeah, fine. I'll take the membership. I've paid my monthly dues. You know, you look at the chart. We obviously recouped all those losses, and now that you're starting to see a little bit of optimism here, at least in my opinion, seeing optimism with regards to a deal maybe being achieved in the near future, it does, in my opinion, speak more about upside movement. And if we get a deal, if we get Trump and China to lock hands and say, okay, we're good, let's whatever the terms are, and that now goes behind us, then we can focus on other issues ahead. Now, they're not all going to be smooth sailing. Some of those issues are going to be troublesome to the markets as well. We'll see how the impacts of regulations are, etc. But now you have a major economic instability component solved. We can now hypothesize through business models and analytics and say, okay, here's going to be the impact on the markets, and that's way beyond my pay grade, but I know that there's economists that will be doing that instantly once these numbers are in. If it's 80% tariff or 20% or 15%, right, they'll lock that in, and then they can start to formulate their forecast. Once that's done, then the Fed can go, okay, that's out of the way. Now they might be a little bit more aggressive, and I think that could juice these markets to all-time highs. So we'll see. We'll see. Then it's the new tax plan. Yeah, you know, and Big Eb, if we look at the new tax plan, my guess is, let's do a poll here. I don't want to say anything yet. I just apologize when I type this. Will the new tax plan move MO markets? Just say, will the new tariff plan move markets to the upside? And I just put yes or no. I'll keep it very binary. So let's say we get some new tax plan, whether that is we're working the tax code, flat tax, preferential treatment for the rich, whatever the new tax code is, right? And we can all come up with theories as to what it might be. Do you think that that's going to move the markets up or move the markets down? In my mind, I'm kind of set on my ways initially here. And I'm just going to give you guys some time to click on that chat there. I know we've got a bunch of people in here. I only have like 13 people have voted. So come on, you guys can do better than that. Let's get in there. Will the new tax plan move markets to the upside or not? Yes or no? Now, as you guys click on that one, especially now that I've guilted you into clicking, what would Trump do here? Trump represents the Republicans, so whether you believe he's a true Republican or not is irrelevant. He's representing that party. Historically, the Republicans are lower taxes. Let's cut taxes. Now, in principle, the belief is that when you cut taxes, you and I have more money to spend, and therefore we will spend that and drive consumption of the economy, and markets will move to the upside. In my mind, I've been running through a scenario where the markets would frown upon tax cuts. And I don't know if I see one. So I see 63. I'm going to finalize it here. No last minute voters? Come on. That many people and only have 27 votes? You guys are driving me crazy today. More money in the hands of consumers is good for equities. I would think so. I think that's the normal Econ 101 perspective of it, right? Now, there will always be people like me who I might buy a couple new small things, but I'm just going to reinvest my capital, right? So let's say, for example, let's say my tax exposure each year is 50 grand. That's how much I pay in taxes. And they change the tax code, and now it's down to 30 grand. The governments believe that $20,000 delta is going to go back into the market and the economy. For me, I'll probably take $1,000 or $2,000, do something fun with it, and I'll take the 18, 19,000 and compound that, reinvest that into other accounts. That's how I would do it. And I think most of you probably wouldn't just spend all that tax savings. You'll probably save some of it and try to put it in a trading account or grow it or whatever. The average American will just dump and spend. Just right away, I'm going to buy some new TVs, etc. So let's see. End the poll. 60% of you said yes, it's going to move the markets up. 40% of you said it's going to move the markets down. I'm curious for the 40%. Again, no one's right or wrong here. It's just our thoughts. Why would you think that it's not going to move the markets up? Like, what would cause, if Trump came out and said, hey, we're going to redo this tax code or redo this, why do you think it would go down? If he raised taxes, yes, I think that puts downward pressure, but he's not going to, right? He's certainly under the party mandate is to lower taxes, and he said that too. I voted, and I'm on a treadmill. I love it, Thomasina. Double dipping today. Love it. Oh, that's cool. It's funny, when I'm at the gym, I don't listen to music anymore. I listen to interviews. So I listen to like Lex Friedman. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm listening to the Elon Musk book right now, which I think is very interesting. Crazy world. Eric would say it's already priced in. That's interesting. There's always that argument, Eric, but is it? We don't really know what he's going to do. So, what's priced in? Just the fact it's going to be beneficial? I could agree with that. That would certainly be one perspective. So you think it's a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing, right? Oh, he's going to be good. He's going to cut taxes, and the market has gone up because of that. Certainly that is a possibility. Absolutely. I didn't know I drove you guys to working out. Do I have to talk faster to get your BPMs going? Eric's on an elliptical. Thomasina's on a treadmill. Anybody on the Stairmaster right now or swimming in the pool? No more tariffs with the economy is weak. Let's go. Said, when we realize that the tax cuts will really do to the economy, it might be taken negatively. I could see that too, Les. I'm a little more on the optimistic side. And again, I think that once he's definitive about what those tax cuts are, I think the market's going to surge. And then once they're implemented, the markets will go down. Think of it like a stock split, right? When a company says, today, we are the 9th of May. If a company came out after market today and said, we're going to do a 10-for-1 stock split, but it's going to happen on June 1st. Well, typically between now and June 1st, the stock gets bought up because people are all excited about it and they think it's going to be good for the shares. And the stock moves up until June 1st. And then once it actually gets implemented, then it falls. And I think that will probably be similar with taxes here. I, for one, am extremely optimistic. I'm crossing my fingers, really hoping that he cuts capital gains taxes on crypto. That would benefit every single person in this room that has crypto, right? You're going to sell everything and you're going to buy it right back. The day that goes through, I'll make a tutorial video on how to do it. Big as playing golf. I'm going golf tonight. I'm doing a glow golf. We have a glow golf tournament where they have a costume contest as well. Maybe if you guys if you're lucky, I will send you my picture of my outfit for tonight. It is ridiculous. It's over the top. It's going to require whiskey to gain my confidence to wear that darn thing. Well, I hope that you and President Trump are having a good round out there, Big Eb. I know he's probably golfing today, too. Go as Trump. Did you see that drive? It was huge. Huge. No one hits a 9-iron like I do. It's them the best. I created the 9-iron. Oh, wow. Getting me off the rails here early. All right, let me walk you through just the finality of some of the trades I was in for the week, and I'm going to wrap things up. If you guys have something you want me to dive into, let me know. Most of mine just expired worthless. So you guys know I had the NVIDIA. I had a bunch of NVIDIA puts that was sold, and those are all going to expire worthless today. Great. Love it. That was 1.5, I believe, % for this week, which I'll take it. MicroStrategy. So I sold the 370s. We closed the week at 415. Well, it's actually 416 on MicroStrategy. I was kind of hoping we'd see some sell-off so I could get those shares again because I think MicroStrategy and Bitcoin are going to keep on rallying. So unfortunately, my shares got taken away, but still collecting great premium. That expired worthless. Palantir's another one. And I was leveraged on these guys, which I normally don't do, but I spread it around enough that I thought it was safe. And I had that 101 for Palantir. You obviously saw a huge rally this week, or at least the tail end of the week. That ended up, all those expired worthless. The only one that I'm in right now, which is actually not in my account that I'm sharing with you guys here. Generally, I have a specific account I'm sharing with you guys, but another account, I have a bunch of IBIT. And I thought this one was kind of funny today because I had been selling calls against my position on IBIT, and I sold the 59s expiring today. And notice it closed at 58.66. So in a perfect world, I would get a nice gap up tomorrow or on Monday, and I could sell the 63s or 64s or something much higher. I mean, if you look at IBIT, you're coming into all-time highs. So even 61 would be kind of uncharted territory for IBIT. So that's one I still have open is IBIT. Everything else is out, closed. Oh, I have SMCI, which is not doing good. It was down today 0.37%, but really just feels stuck here after their bad earnings and their bad forecast. Now, one other thing, you guys remember I was doing the wheel strategy as well for TTD, Trade Desk. And that one fell so bad, I just said, enough, I'm out, move on. Here's that TTD. So I've been out of this for a couple months now, but here's the big gap down we had back on February 13th. Huge gap down, and a couple days after that, I sold some puts on it, and it just kept falling and falling and falling, and I ultimately ended up closing it out. Look what happened to the Trade Desk here over the past couple of days. And today was an 18% gain. One point it was up like 25% intraday. Yeah, that's a wild move. Of course, I don't own any of it, so it's just more of just fun to watch. And I think many of you have experienced this where you get out of something and you're like, oh, God, just enough's enough. Rules are rules. You got to get out. And then a couple weeks or months or days later, it does exactly what you thought it was going to do and has a huge rally, and you're just left holding the bag of nothing, of loss. And you're like, oh, why? Oh, well, this is why you don't look back. Whatever. TTD can do anything it wants from here on out. Has no impact on me. Tariffs will still make things more expensive to buy. That's why I voted for markets going up. Well, the markets thing was on tariffs, or was on taxes. Is that it for me? What other questions you guys got? Anything else here? Anything else you want me to dive into? Thomasina's done with her run, so she's off to, she finishes her run, now off to the bar. Old Manson, he was mentioning Trump visiting Saudi Arabia, talking about a Bitcoin surprise. You hear of anything. So here's the deal, and it's really shady, okay? President Trump, as you guys know, is one of the founders and basically the controlling interest in World Liberty Financial. World Liberty Financial created a stablecoin, and now Trump is pushing aggressively for stablecoin with the Genius Act, which maybe I'll break down a little bit later on at a different time. Trump is doing what many people are calling a really shady deal by forcing Saudi Arabia to, and they have already done this, they've bought billions of dollars worth of Trump's stablecoin, which is USD1, and with that, Trump and the fund will make a bunch of money off those transactions. Well, it seems a little bit, I don't know how do I say this the right way, but as an American, I want my president to do what's best for the country, period. Again, this is not an attack on Trump. It's just the presidency as a position. I want the president to do everything that's possible to benefit the country that I live in and the country that I love. Making a deal with Saudi Arabians to benefit your own companies and make your company money, in my mind, there could be a significant conflict of interest between those two. I actually feel like what President Trump is doing is damaging to crypto. At the beginning, I was singing his praises because he's pushing all these regulations, but now he's doing things, as I thought, to benefit himself and his family and people who are involved with Trump Coin or World Liberty Financial. So I'm still a little bit, I'm optimistic, obviously, for crypto as a whole, but the deal going on with Saudi Arabia, which I'll dig into it more this weekend and get you all the details and maybe make some graphics for you, it sounds shady as hell. Sounds really shady, and I don't think the president should be doing those types of deals, but it is what it is. I have a feeling it could come back and give another black eye to the crypto industry, but I'll talk more about that when I have all the details, because I just have high-level stuff right now. Is the Trump coin still the one you can buy but can't sell? Correct. No, I'm sorry. World Liberty Financial. So if you go here, this is, I don't even know if World Liberty Financial is out yet. WLFI is the name of the token. It's not even really out yet. There's no exchanges that have it. Let's see what it's, there's nothing here. The other one is Trump. This one is a meme coin. You can buy and sell it as you wish. But, this to me is also a very shady thing. There is no real utility here. Now he's saying that whoever has the top 5 holders of Trump coin get to come to the White House and have dinner with him. That, to me, should not be allowed. You are now incentivizing people to buy a meme coin. And one of the statistics I saw showed something like 50 people made money on Trump coin and 748,000 lost money. Meaning only the select group that were involved from day one made money. Everyone else is a loser on this one. But I have the president incentivizing you to buy this one so you can have dinner with him. That should not be allowed, in my opinion, right? Top 5 accounts get to have dinner with him. World Liberty Financial is the one that you cannot sell. Yeah. I agree, Chris. But there's some people which I respect the loyalty as well. There's some people who are absolute fanatics, and maybe having dinner with President Trump is the highlight of their life, and they're rushing to get that. Cool. To each their own, right? Just know when you buy a meme coin, it's going to zero at some point. I mentioned this. When Trump's out of office, what's the Trump coin going to do? There is no utility to it. It doesn't really do anything. So I wonder what they're having for dinner. McDonald's square fish. It's like Chris says. They didn't pass a Second Amendment bill for removing the tax stamp or buying suppressors for firearms, which is weird because the majority of Republicans. Well, I'm not going to go into those because I don't know the details. Why the relationship between stablecoin and a sound dollar? So, as I mentioned before, one of the things you got to understand about stablecoins is this Genius Act is attempting to spell out the framework for all stablecoins. Right now, you can create a stablecoin. You can go out there and create one as quickly as you want. The danger is a stablecoin is designed to be backed by something. In this case, let's use the dollar as an example. If I sell you $1 worth of a stablecoin token, it should have $1 on the back end. Some do, some don't. Some have nothing on the back end. Others have a mix of assets on the back end. So what should happen is when you buy the stablecoin for $1, that $1 gets put into a bank account, right? That's 1-to-1. But there's no incentive. There's no money to be made there. So what should happen is very clear rules that say here's what you can and cannot do with that dollar that you've collected from customers. If they buy $1 worth of stablecoin right now, complete Wild West. Absolute Wild West of what goes on behind the scenes. Now, things like USDC are getting better and very structured, but there still is no guarding framework. So ultimately what we need is stablecoin reform and rules. And then once we have that, then there'll be a proliferation of them all around the world. I mean, it's going to be tons of them. But if you tell people that when you create this stablecoin, and I collect $1 from the consumer for this product, and you say, okay, it has to go into dollars and government bonds, now I know what I can do with it. And now I know how I can make money off that. I'll take those dollars and buy bonds. For example, a bank, right? You take your Wells Fargo, your Chase Bank, they collect let's use Chase because it's a 0.01% interest. They take your dollar and they give you 0.01% interest per year. They could simply take that dollar and buy treasuries, buy T-bills for 3 months and make 4.3% per year, risk-free. So right away, you're wasting time and money by keeping your deposits at the bank, right? To me, that's same thing with stablecoins. If you buy a stablecoin, you better be using that stablecoin to earn yourself a yield because the dollar you just gave to that firm is using that dollar to earn yield. Someone's taking the risk-free side of that trade for you because you believe that stablecoin is going to be used somewhere else. It's complicated. It's a pretty complicated piece. Ted, do you have any comments on today's House Financial Service Committee hearing regarding crypto protection laws? Apparently the laws apply to everyone except Trump. So, yeah, I did not see that. But yes, I have heard that these are there's a lot of open holes to the the crypto rules being put in place. The Genius Act, which I've been kind of studying and trying to dig more into it, is interesting, and it does show there's definitely holes in these things. And remember, my big problem with bills that get passed, is they get pushed through too quickly. It's more prudent to take some time and at least see what the pros and cons are of each of these bills before we finally sign off on it, whether it's Democrat or Republican that pushed it through. I don't care. Ultimately, they should both be looking out for our own interests. And if you pass a bill that gives exemption to everybody, that punishes everybody except Trump, I would not be voting on that either, no matter what side of the aisle I was on, right? You can't exclude one entity or one person from that should these things go wrong. So I did not know about that one, but we'll see. Malcolm, good to see you. Such a conflict of interest. Absolutely, Malcolm. In my opinion, massive conflict of interest. And the thing is there anything illegal being done here? And I would argue the answer is no, because we don't have laws and rules in place for crypto, which is why if you ever take my crypto course, I'm a huge fan of regulation. Bring it on. At least give some clarity to this industry, because if you look at this list of names on this screen here, I know I've got a long list, but you just go down this list of cryptocurrencies here, right? Where are my cryptos? There you go. These are all cryptocurrencies. A lot of these are garbage. Hex coin, Total scam. ETHW, gonna completely disappear. Gone. Mana. Hey, if you like metaverse, this actually could be a decent play. If you like gold as Bitcoin, and then silver as Litecoin. Chainlink, this is an oracle. This helps these blockchains communicate with the outside world. They're critical to surviving. So some of these are legit businesses, man. There's really opportunity here. And unfortunately, you get garbage like this, Pepe coin or Trump coin or, Melania coin, that just ruins it all. And honestly, I think regulation should push those out of the United States. They should have certain places that you could buy and sell those, but keep the rest of them out. We don't need that garbage. Robert, is USDT a good coin? It's not a coin, it's a token. So USDT is Tether. Tether is run by a Chinese company, and that makes people very, very, very nervous. So here's Tether versus US dollar. And you can see that there's been wild fluctuations in the past, right? These big, they look really dramatic, but they're not that dramatic. This is supposed to stay right around $1. Now, going back to what I talked about earlier, Robert, and others, if you take a stable coin and you take $1 from a customer and issue it this stable coin, it's a token. Really, it's a token. Now, what do I do with that dollar? What Tether has been doing is not only having some in dollars, they've had some in bonds, government bonds, but a majority of it's in corporate debt, which is taking risk to another level, right? When you buy corporate debt, obviously you're taking a lot more risk. So for example, we looked yesterday at how much money Warren Buffett makes. If he has 5% of the treasury market, he's, $13.8 billion a year he's making off of his $347 billion in cash. Well, if you look right here, let me real quickly bring this up for you. Go to CoinMarketCap. We can see how much market cap USDT is. So here's Tether. Tether's $149 billion market cap. That means that's $149 billion worth of cash. So from a pure math perspective, if we take that 149 billion, right, and you times that by 0.04, this would be them putting it just in treasuries. Just in treasuries. That's $5.9 billion a year for doing nothing. Literally taking other people's money and making money off it. But where Tether got themselves in trouble is they're not putting it in treasuries. They're putting it in corporate bonds. And some of those corporate bonds, just so you know, are in China. So let's say you got $149 billion. And instead of getting the super safe, risk-free rate, right? You could argue that treasuries are risk-free. Government's not going to default in 2 weeks or a month. They're going out and they're buying Evergrande, which is a big construction firm. And are they going to get more or less? They're going to get way more. So maybe they're out there getting 9% on these bonds, right? They're buying these bonds. Let's say they get times that by 0.09. Now they've almost doubled their rate of return to $13 billion. So there's risks that these firms are taking with the bottom line, with the customer deposits. That's the concern. In my opinion, it's simple. It's a simple math equation. Every dollar that comes in, 25% of it must stay in US dollars, cash, and it needs to be audited. If I'm the government, I'll set up stablecoin banks that are just to hold that money. The other 75% can only be in treasuries, not 10 years, not 30-year bonds, not corporate debt, not Tesla bonds, not MicroStrategy. It can only be in, let's just say, 2-month or lower time frame durations. And this would be such a win for the US government. Huge win. Because it makes them buy treasuries. It creates demand for the short end of that yield curve, which would push yields down even more. And therefore, the government can raise money at a much cheaper price. And it keeps supporting the US dollar as a world reserve currency. So it's a win-win. No, Malcolm, I can't be president. I was not born in America. Big Eb, Tether is buying junk bonds. Not the whole portfolio. Not the whole portfolio, but parts of the portfolio are in junk bonds. I mean, Evergrande, let me see if I can find out what Evergrande bond yields are. Let's see, Evergrande bond yields 8.75. There you go, right? Evergrande is 8.75. Here's another one, 9.5. So, yeah, Tether's out there buying this stuff, and they were trying to hide it. They were not disclosing their holdings. Evergrande is risk, man. That's a big builder, developer out in China, which could go bankrupt. There was concerns about them going bankrupt, you know. So that's a concern, is Wild West about what they buy into. So anyway, all right, you guys had some great questions. We moved on to He's the smartest man to keep his cash and T-bills. Yeah, especially when the market's uncertain. Why not? He can get bottom line numbers that are astounding. I mean, to make $13 billion in interest alone for literally doing nothing is incredible. Incredible. And he's probably out there selling puts on companies, which he's made billions of dollars off of puts as well. We're talking Warren Buffett here. He made billions of dollars off of selling puts. And he'll buy companies at prices he likes. And at some point, you will see him deploy that capital where he thinks he can get a better rate of return. Robert says, at some point this year, want to exchange Bitcoin to a stablecoin and not sure which one. USDC. And the only reason I say USDC is because USDC is a US created one. It's controlled by a bunch of US corporations, and Coinbase is a big part of that. So it's US centric. Tether is Chinese. And nothing against China. It's just it's outside of my control, and they're opaque with their holdings. Now they're getting better. Tether's gotten a lot better, but you got to know these things before you buy in, which is why we teach the crypto program. All right. That's going to do it for me, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up. For Monday, you don't really have any major economic announcements. They really start on Tuesday. There's really nothing big on the earnings front as well, so I'm going to wrap it up with that. I hope you all have a great weekend. Cheers. Go do something fun and exciting. If there's things you want me to discuss next week, stuff you want to cover, stuff you want to learn, let me know. You can email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com, which is on your screen there. So cheers, everybody. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday. Take care. Oh, and happy Mother's Day to all the lovely mamas out there.